The Niners are moving on. They are going to the NFC Championship game. Initial reactions, game balls from the divisional beatdown of, not quite a beatdown, of the Dallas Cowboys. Coming at you right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. 19-12, the final. The San Francisco 49ers defeating the Dallas Cowboys to advance to face the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game. I can see the chat is already filling up. The fans out there are pumped. Croc, no doubt you are pumped and now have some bragging rights on members of your own family. And of course, all those 49ers fans that had those arguments all along with those Cowboys fans. Time to puff your a little bit.
They're sick right now. Oh, we've been going crazy in the group chat, talking our trash, all that. They had that coming. I think everybody knows how much this game meant to me. This was my Super Bowl. And obviously I want to see the 49ers win the Super Bowl. But the bragging rights for this game, like within my circle, is bigger than winning the Super Bowl. So it was exciting to see the 49ers handle business. You talk about having to go through, different adversity on the way to a Super Bowl. This was not perfect at all. And I say Super Bowl, but even NFC Championship game, whatever. Not a perfect outing by any means, but the 49ers have shown time and time again they're extremely tough, they're extremely resilient, and whatever it takes, they're going to do it to really give themselves an opportunity to play in the next week in the postseason. So it's kind of weird, man. Like, I just don't expect this team to lose before the NFC Championship game. So here we are again, 6 times in 11 years. That is crazy.
This was, I saw somebody in the chat say, I've never paced so much in my life. And yeah, this was a stand-up game. If you were watching this at home, if you were watching this at Levi's Stadium, John Lynch up in the luxury suite, you were standing up for this game. This is one of those games where you couldn't sit down because it was tight the entire way. Jim says, WTF was that final play for Dallas. I love how quickly that play ended. You saw offensive linemen lined up on the outside, Zeke snapping the ball. Zeke got destroyed immediately, and that play went nowhere so quickly. They didn't even get a chance to run whatever play they were trying to pull, the trickery there to end the football game. But man, just what a closely contested matchup and a really good one. And you just couldn't breathe because of how good both defenses played. And I think that's what I take away from this game, Croc. Both defenses were good. It wasn't that the offenses were bad, right?
Yeah, I thought both teams played extremely well. And there were some kind of opportunistic plays that I thought both defenses really answered the challenge, right? Diamador Lenore, pick 6, puts the 49ers in scoring position. Cowboys hold the 49ers at 3. On the other side, Ray McLeod, he fumbles on the return. 49ers defense holds the Dallas Cowboys at 3. I think those were 2 huge, really possessions by both teams to kind of either keep the team in it or, really make this game pretty close. But when you're this far in the playoffs, there typically is not a huge separation. I know we saw what the Eagles did to the Giants. I mean, I didn't think that was going to be close anyways, but we knew that these 2 teams, the 49ers and Cowboys, were definitely more evenly matched, and it was fun. I liked that game. I actually like watching the game like that more than the blowout. The blowout's easier on the nerves, but as a football fan, you're going to kind of remember these type of games more than just blowing out the Dallas Cowboys.
We've got a ton of players that we can give game balls to in this one. It was so close. It was a heart pounder. It was a stressful matchup. A lot of good, a lot of bad in this one. I want to talk really quick about something that was super interesting to me, and it was that when the 49ers realized and Brock Purdy and that speed of the Dallas Cowboys front. When the 49ers realized, okay, this is different than what we've seen in this 11 straight wins, this run in the second half of the year that went so well for the 49ers. You realized early this was a little bit different, something they hadn't quite faced. And a better team, yes, but just that speed up front that could chase people outside, that could chase Brock Purdy around. It was going to make things difficult. And I will point to Brock Purdy and the 49ers not turning the ball over a bunch, not going into a shell or anything. They just kept trying everything they could. And eventually they got through, and the defense allowed them to keep giving them the ball back. So I loved that resiliency. I loved the guts from Brock Purdy, even though things weren't going well. And I thought that was a huge moment for the 49ers to see adversity, just stand in the face of it, take those waves, and then eventually, ride that wave to victory by the second half.
Kyle Shanahan, he's a very interesting play caller. We watched before the half. It was very weird kind of how he called plays. Ultimately, they ended up getting a field goal out of it, but I was ready to cuss him out when I was watching the way that first half was kind of setting up to end. Got points. That was awesome. But late in the game, and he kind of does this where when it's like he kind of builds up the courage to do something, and the 49ers got the ball back. Obviously, they kind of had to run this play before the 2-minute warning. And he has Purdy just raise up and throw the ball to George Kittle. And I thought that was huge. And obviously the 49ers didn't end up getting points. And Elijah Mitchell, he really almost kind of screwed things up. But it did allow the 49ers to really pin the Dallas Cowboys deep in their territory. So that was really gutsy by Kyle. And it showed the confidence and the faith that he has in Brock Purdy.
Fantastic one. So much fun. Yeah, there's faith there. There was... What'd you think real quick about the end of the first half? I had flashbacks to the Super Bowl. Just letting time run off the clock, and they were able to hit the big one to Jennings, get down to attempt a 50-yard field goal, which is still not ideal, even if your goal was to get into field goal range. Trying the 50-yarder, and Robbie Gould just nails hitting that 50-yard field goal. But that felt really weird to me from Kyle, maybe going into the shell a little too much, not trying to go down and take the momentum of the big interception and go down there and score and really flip the scoreboard. I thought that could have been a backbreaker, and instead they kind of slow played it, and they did get 3, which is better than 0, but they didn't even try to go get 7. What'd you think about that?
Yeah, it was a little weird, and I was with these kids. I was actually driving back from Houston, Texas. I just got back to Arkansas, right when the second half was starting. But I told the kids, I was like, 49ers right here, they're going to go screen or draw. You typically do that the first play to see, hey, how many yards do I get? And if you get yards, if you get a 7-yard pickup, 8-yard pickup, then you start to go for it. You pick up the pace and you go for it. And 49ers kind of picked up the pace, but just ran the ball again, then melted the clock down, took a final timeout. I just thought it was really weird, that entire setup, because it was like, okay, I got the play that I'm able to be more aggressive, and then he kind of tailed off of that. And then fortunately he called a really good play, and Juwan Jennings was able to get out of bounds. So things kind of worked in his favor, but just in the sense of what he was thinking, I don't quite understand it. But fortunately, it was cool that it worked out.
And they almost, there was another, the ball that Purdy threw away over Jennings' head. He was wide open again on another deep crosser, so they could have gotten even closer. And then maybe they'd have gone for it, but it was kind of too late. That was after the 30 seconds ran off the clock. And so if they hit that, then it's like, now you're in between. It's like, well, do we go for it or do we not? Because we kind of been playing for a field goal and we weren't going for it. It was an odd slow play to end the first half. I didn't like seeing that because I thought that was a big momentum changer. Turned out not to matter at all.
You needed points before the half. That was my thing, because the Cowboys get the ball after halftime. So I just thought from the jump he would be a lot more aggressive to make sure that he gets points. And he really kind of played it as conservative as possible, but still like, okay, if we happen to do something, as opposed to, hey, we're going to go down here, we're going to be aggressive, we're going to score points. I didn't think he had that mindset. And if you get the ball after the half, that's one thing. We knew Dallas Cowboys got the ball after half. So that was one thing. If we're going to question him about anything in this game, I thought Kyle did a lot of really good things. That definitely was not. That was an interesting one, just in the sense of how he's thinking. And that's why I like to look like, what is he thinking on this, right? When you draft a player, it doesn't always work out. But I always like to see, like, what were they thinking when they made this move? And that was one right there where I just don't quite understand exactly what his logic was. And then Purdy almost, rookie mistake, but him kind of waiting, running, okay, then throws the ball, and it's like there's 1 second left. And I'm like, all right. Well, I'd rather this game now, especially after a win, where it's just like, okay, don't do that again, and just throw the ball away, and let's kick the field goal. So I'm interested to hear what they have to say really about that entire last minute of the first half.
Right. It felt like the first goal wasn't to score points. The first goal was to make sure that the Cowboys didn't get the ball back, even though they weren't really moving the ball well, and you wouldn't expect them to be able to march down and just score points easy against the 49ers defense either. So that was kind of the problem I had with it. It should have been if the field goal was the goal number one, then you go get into field goal range, but it didn't feel like that was the goal. And probably the goal should have been to go get 7. But it worked out. They got the.
And I don't like that though. Right, because we're always trying to figure out like who is Kyle, and when we start talking about NFC Championship game and what it's going to take to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, and we'll get to that, but you can't have this I'm playing not to lose mentality.
Right.
You got to play to win, and I felt like that at the end of the half, Kyle kind of reverted back to why I believe he hasn't been able to win that Super Bowl, because and maybe he goes back to he has flashback of the Falcons. And starts to think like, well, I was more aggressive there, and it didn't quite work out in our favor, and we lost. But it worked, so awesome. But just the mindset, I'm still trying to figure out who is Kyle. Is he aggressive? Is he conservative? Which one? I don't know. I still don't know.
All right, we got to give out some game balls in this one. Of course, when the 49ers win a playoff game, advance to the NFC Championship game. Croc, we've been blessed to be able to cover this a few times now with the 49ers moving on to this level in the playoffs here. And there's always a number of game balls to give out. I think this game even has some more obvious game ball recipients. We'll get into that next. Today's episode is presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. How easy is PrizePicks? Well, you can make an entry in less than 60 seconds. It's that easy. All you do is you pick 2 to 5 players. You're not picking an entire lineup of players. You're not competing against other people. All you're doing is picking any sport, and I'll get to all the sports they cover in a second. You pick 2 to 5 players in those sports, and if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on that entry. Of course, you can find projections on the NFL, all of the playoff games, NBA nightly, golf, college hoops, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, MMA, boxing, even things like disc golf and esports and cricket you can find at PrizePicks, and find those projections and play every single stinking day. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50 more to play with. So don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. Make sure you're subscribed up to everything on the network, including the Peacock and Williamson NFL show, Locked On NFL Draft, Locked On NFL, all the biggest stories from all the biggest games around the NFL, and available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Shout out to the 49ers defense and D'Amico Ryans, Croc, and the job they were able to do. And there was so much made about Dak Prescott and the game he was coming off of last week, and how easily the Cowboys beat up on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and how this was going to be a game, a career-defining game for Dak Prescott to get his team into the NFC Championship game on the road. A game-defining drive, the last couple of drives for Dak Prescott, especially the drive right before where they went 3 and out.
Where he tried to throw a pick six.
He nearly throws a pick six, gets sacked on 3rd down. I can't even remember what the 2nd down play was.
He got banged in the end zone. I don't even know what he was thinking. Like, why aren't you throwing the ball away? But I think the player, and this is the thing, and I've seen it a couple of times now, I don't think players really know how to tackle quarterbacks. So they sometimes they'll throw their body into them and think, well, if he falls, cool, because if you wrap him up and take him to the ground, there's a chance they just might throw a flag. So I think all these different things are going through their heads, and then it happens quick, and then it's like, dang, I didn't get him down. I think it was Eric Armstead. I believe it was.
It was Eric Armstead, and Armstead's probably like expected he was not going to be allowed to tackle him because he was going to throw the ball away, and he didn't throw the ball, so he created this awkward moment where he probably should have had a safety, but smart for Armstead just to make sure he didn't have a penalty there to give him a free first down, to give him 15 yards, get him out of the shadow of the end zone, and really help them out on that drive. So even though it was sort of a weird play by Armstead, clearly he was trying to avoid a flag because he could have gotten rid of the ball very quickly. It looked like he was going to, and Dak just really kind of crumbled there. But I blame the 49ers defense more than Dak, I think. And Dak wasn't great in this game, but there was a lot that wasn't great for the Cowboys offense in this game because the 49ers defense is that good and made things very difficult. So shout out to both defenses. They made life very difficult for both offenses in this game. So my first game ball goes to DeMeco Ryans.
He's been awesome, man. He dials up these game plans, and he's had that. And a lot of people thought, hey, man, Dak Prescott, he had this awesome game. He's going to keep that going. I'm like, Cowboy fans, and I talked to my brother about this. He's sad right now, but they don't know what Dak Prescott's going to show up. I think the Dak Prescott that I expected to show up, like that's who actually did show up. And that was always going to be the difference for the Dallas Cowboys. Are you going to have this one-off Dak Prescott that had the game of his life against Tampa Bay, who kind of sucks right now? Or are you going to have what we've seen him to be more down the stretch, which is a guy that turns the ball over a ton? And you can't really do that against the 49ers. The 49ers, probably have either first or second best point differential in the NFL. How do you do that? By really taking the ball away and not turning the ball over. And they did at this game. Brock Purdy's done an excellent job of that. Well, Dak Prescott didn't, and he tried to turn it over 3 times. So that was something where DeMeco Ryans, obviously he's always putting guys in positions to make plays, and they did.
If I'd say one thing about DeMeco Ryans, I thought he went prevent a little early because it allowed the Cowboys a free play to get a chunk and then get out of bounds to have a better shot at a Hail Mary. But Dalton Schultz messed up 2 plays in a row. One didn't get out of bounds in time, so it kept the clock running, and then didn't even get both feet in bounds on the other one where he could have been out of bounds, and it would have given Dak an opportunity to at least throw the ball in the end zone, have a chance at a Hail Mary instead of whatever the hell that last play they ran was. So
you can't get hit backwards, and that's what happened. Right. I think it was maybe Traverse Ward or one of those guys. They knocked him backwards, and just so you don't know, just if the fans don't know, that's considered your forward progress stopping. So if you're running upfield and you get hit and you fall backwards out of bounds, they say your forward progress stopped in the field of play, so they keep the clock running. So that's what kind of happened. So I don't know if Traverse Ward meant to do it, but if he did, that was a super, super, super heads-up play. But he knew. Maybe he did mean, because as soon as it happened, he started pointing like, run that clock. Yeah. So maybe he did just know.
Ward knew what was going on. Yeah, Ward definitely did. And Dalton Schultz did not. That was bad clutch. 2 plays by Dalton Schultz there. Fred Warner. Okay, Fred Warner just making his presence felt all over the field in this game, flashing in the backfield, making plays on running backs, making plays in the passing game. One of my favorite plays I think I've seen all year. Of course, the interception was great. Jimmy Ward tipping the ball up and Fred Warner completing the interception. But how about on a really key play where Dak was trying to bomb one on the 49ers, trying to hit him with an explosive play deep down the seam to CeeDee Lamb, and Fred Warner is like mugged up in the A gap to show blitz to start the snap. Then he drops back, makes eye contact with CeeDee Lamb, who's coming out of the slot and running a deep seam, and picks him up and carries him all the way down the seam. That is a linebacker who is in the A gap at the snap, carrying a wide receiver 1 down the field and causing an incompletion. Just a ridiculous play that maybe no other linebacker in the NFL can make.
Great play, showed his range. And as Coach Nutella Howard, shout out to Coach Nutella, he always says, if there's space, you must chase. And he did not look back for the ball. That got him in position to really distract CeeDee Lamb, because I don't even know if Fred Warner actually touched the ball, but the fact that he got there, there's this big 6'4" body, big frame blocking kind of your view of the ball. Then it's like you're trying to go get it. A lot going on there. Took his concentration away from really catching that rock. So shout out to Fred Warner. And I saw someone in the chat say he had his best game. He was awesome, man. He was blitzing. He's playing timely. He's making tackles. He had a nice tackle for loss in the backfield. He was all-pro Fred. 2-time.
That's why they call him All Pro Fred. Got another one this year as well.
Should be, you know what? Kind of quietly, should be 3 All Pros, because they were calling him All Pro Fred before he even got his first All Pro. And I think he kind of got snubbed that first year because it was one of those kind of I've arrived moments, and they kind of snubbed him. But obviously, he 2-time All Pro. We're not complaining here, but should be 3-time All Pro for real.
49ers Shaolin in the chat said Huff made some huge plays. There's nobody better in the league at timing blitzes than Talanoa Hufanga. I don't know how he does it. It's crazy. It's like he knows
At the very
snap
least,
count.
disrupting plays. He
Yeah.
missed a tackle or so, or whatever. But man, I just keep flying around because that gets guys to think, stop their feet, have to change direction. Somebody else come and clean it up. So he had an opportunity. It was a 4th down play, I believe, on the touchdown drive. He had an opportunity to tackle CeeDee Lamb short of the sticks, and he didn't. So I'm gonna give him a hard time about that. But overall, he's flying around, man. I just love the way he plays.
I don't know if you saw the play. What was the coverage when he came down and broke up the pass? It looked like too high defense. Was it like a robber, or did he just instinctively see what was happening in front of him? Because usually they catch in front of you and you tackle and play, but he came up and actually broke up the pass. Is that just instinctive Talanoa Hufanga just kind of doing his own thing? Or is there like weird robber rules where you can kind of get off of that deep half and come down if you see something, a dig route in front of you?
I might have missed that play.
It was in the first half. It was early. You might have been just driving from your 7-on-7 tournament.
Yeah. I was kind of watching, but it was like on the phone. The phone was like propped up, so I'm watching. I'm listening more than actually like watching. I didn't want deer to run out in the middle and
be careful out there, folks. Don't do what Crocker was doing there, watching the playoff game while you're driving. Here we go. Greg Pinelli knows his coverage rules. He says Tampa 2, he saw the dig route. So he just instinctively saw it and jumped the route. So good on Hufanga making the play there. Instinctive. I love seeing him come up on plays. Like he just sees stuff in front of him so well. Who you got, Croc, for another game ball here? Actually, hold on. Wait on that. I want to ask the chat as well. Who do you think should be nominated for some more game balls in this one? I know I've got a couple, and especially one that I really want to shout out in this game, and we're going to go to Croc for his next game ball as well next. But I'm super excited. I got to tell you guys about our newest sponsor. The NFL playoffs are rocking right now, and we're so excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the #1 sports book in America. FanDuel is the new official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network and Locked On 49ers. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better because they have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. I personally love the interface. It's such a beautiful interface, really easy to use, intuitive. New customers join today and get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/locked on. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from the money line to the point spreads to player props. There's going to be draft props. You can do same game parlays. You can do tons of, put together any kind of parlay you want on NFL football or NBA or any sport out there you can imagine. And looking ahead, we've already got odds here. The Philadelphia Eagles at home, favored by 2 points against the visiting San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game next Sunday, noon Pacific time kickoff. So if you want to go to FanDuel and get started on that game, you can. And everything is on the app. It's safe and secure, super easy to use, or at FanDuel.com. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet and get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at FanDuel.com/locked on. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Croc, who's the next game ball for Eric Crocker in that divisional win over the Dallas Cowboys?
You got to go with Brock Purdy, right? And it wasn't this splashy game. I think my guy Greg Pinelli will probably call me later on and tell me it was a very Jimmy G type of game. But the one thing that he did that Jimmy Garoppolo, or I guess didn't do that Jimmy is prone to do, is turn the ball over. Now, there was one that went off of someone's helmet and went right into the hands of Trevon Diggs, and I'm glad a guy who might have the best ball skills in the NFL at the cornerback position. He just dropped the ball between him and Ramsey. Great ball skills, both of those guys, but he kind of dropped it and glanced off someone's helmet. But overall, I thought he did a terrific job of being aggressive, but still not, consistently putting the ball in harm's way. And I just feel comfortable, with him dropping back, throwing passes, and you just see that first down throw right before the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter to hit George Kittle, when he did. I mean, it was awesome to see. And I'd say he's a big part of the reason why the 49ers won, as well as the defense, of course. And I'd say Dak Prescott is a big part of the reason why the Dallas Cowboys lost the game. So, just going into this game, big time matchup, everything that's at stake, and to outplay Dak Prescott, I think you have to give him a game ball.
I love the accuracy and really just the guts we've seen from a rookie quarterback that's not getting phased and not making mistakes. We saw the play where he ran around, avoided the sack, and then chucks the ball out of bounds. He's not getting sacked and fumbling the ball. He's not getting forced into turnovers and bad throws. Even the one that could have been an interception was a tipped ball, right? So I love that from Purdy, and it's not the best game statistically. It wasn't an amazing performance or anything by Brock Purdy. He was 19 of 29 for 214 yards, no touchdowns, but no interceptions. So you didn't make the back-breaking play, whereas Dak Prescott on the other side threw 2 interceptions and really killed a couple drives for the Dallas Cowboys. So
and that's what I'm giving them game ball for.
Right.
I am giving him the game ball more so for not losing this game, not turning it over, putting the 49ers in like this big-time vulnerable situation, but also making timely throws. Hell, the throw before halftime, I think that was big to Juwan Jennings. Still consistently firing away as well as not turning the ball over. I think that's worthy, not in the sense of his, it wasn't this amazing passing game with just big splashy throws. And I saw someone in the chat say, oh, man, he's done better. Yeah, he has. But I think for the moment and what was asked of him and how he came through, I think that was big time.
Yeah, he could have made a better throw a little closer to the pylon for Ayuk early after the big George Kittle throw. That was a dime to Kittle down the middle, down the seam. Great route from Kittle, too. He could have thrown it out there a little bit more for Ayuk and probably had a touchdown. Didn't. I loved a couple that you mentioned the throw right before the 2-minute warning at the end of the game. That's a dime throw, in a pressure situation. You can't turn the ball over there. He had another one to, I think it was Christian McCaffrey. He just ran a little slant, and it was just like between 3 defenders. And he's just not afraid for a young player. He just shows so much guts, and it's pretty awesome. One thing I was worried about early, Croc, in this game was that Dak Prescott had turned the ball over twice, 2 interceptions, and the 49ers couldn't go down and get a touchdown. But that brings me to my other game ball, which was to still perfect in the playoffs, Robbie Gould. I mean, just nails. Robbie Gould doesn't miss. It's absurd. And he was the one that was that was tasked with scoring points for the 49ers today. And he absolutely did it, including a 50-yarder. So shout out to Robbie Gould, who's just been so awesome for the 49ers and is about as clutch as it gets. I mean, you cannot be more clutch when you literally don't miss in the playoffs. It's unbelievable.
He missed a field goal. God, when was it? Like late in the year, I feel like he missed a field goal in a game that was kind of tight at the time.
That was the Raiders game.
Was it the Raiders game? Okay,
Yeah.
So he missed a field goal, and I just remember thinking, wow, Robbie Gould missed? So it's just like whenever he steps on the field, I'm like, oh, this is good as gold, right? That's kind of corny, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just that's when he's on the field, I just have this sense of confidence, like, oh, this is going in. Whereas the Cowboys, I mean, I think their kicker was nervous for a chip shot field goal from like the 10-yard line. Like they were nervous. And you don't get that from Gould. So a couple years ago or a few years ago, however long it was, he wanted out. And I'm so glad that they didn't let him go. And they almost held him hostage. But I think it's kind of worked out for the better. And the 49ers, remember, at that time they were bad. And he was like, well, I kind of either want to go to Chicago or I want to go to a team that's good. And the 49ers just happened to turn the corner that year. I think he's a big part of it. I think he's consistently a big part of why the 49ers have been successful because you can always count on him.
And as the chat pointed out, also made maybe a touchdown-saving tackle on the kick return from Kevontae.
Yeah, kind of like threw his back at the guy or whatever.
Yeah, he did. He's just like, I'm going to get in this dude's way. And it was effective.
Kickers get hurt trying to make tackles because of how they try to tackle. It's like they want to like kind of catch the guy or they do this weird thing. I don't even know what that was, what he did. It kind of like turned. At least that's what it looked like to me, kind of like turned or something. And I don't know, but they put themselves in these vulnerable positions to where they end up like taking these, like just a pounding,
George Kittle. Got to give a game ball to George Kittle.
Oh, yeah.
The huge play. Like, and I love the Purdy to Kittle connection. Again, it wasn't high volume today by any means with this football game, but 5 catches for 95 yards, had the deep one early down the seam, had big first down catch right before the 2-minute warning, had another just circus catch, throws up the one-handed mitt, bounces off his face. The concentration for him to make that catch and make a huge play. That I think the 3 biggest plays in the game were all Kittle on offense. So fantastic game by George Kittle, and heart and soul player. He's blocking Micah Parsons on one play. He's running the seam on the next play. He's blocking down the field. He's fair catching Christian McCaffrey's spike in the end zone and then giving the ball to Jerry Rice. I mean, just like a joy to watch George Kittle. So game ball all day long for George.
Big George, man, and I think that's the usage that we would like to see consistently with the 49ers, right? Because he's kind of out of the conversation, kind of. I think people just know what he's capable of. But if you ask most people who's the best tight end in football, they'd say Travis Kelce. I think George Kittle is every bit as good. But the usage is just hit or miss. And when you see a performance like this, it kind of just reminds you of what he's truly capable of doing, which I don't think we need a reminder. We've been kind of pounding the table, get this guy more targets. But to me, he is the best tight end in this game when you actually utilize him as a pass catcher.
Tal in the chat says, can we shout out Jimmy Ward, please? This guy is not just getting the love he deserves.
He had an awesome game. I think this was a game where a lot of people knew that there was going to be a tough task being able to, having to guard CeeDee Lamb in the slot. And I thought he did a terrific job. Like, when it was time to guard him, Lamb, his numbers, they look very impressive. But I'd say he caught about 6 passes behind the line of scrimmage. And they did a good job blocking some of them up. So he had, a few, he had some yards. Then he had 2 catches that were like kind of downfield. One was more of an explosive play. The other one was more of a like a 15-yard play. But outside that, I mean, it was like 6 passes behind the line of scrimmage. So, great job. Maybe that was their thing where, hey, they like to run zone. We can get numbers out on the edge. And we're just going to throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage to CeeDee Lamb and him pick up, 5 yards, 6 yards, or maybe even 10 yards on 1 or 2. But I thought Jimmy Ward played an awesome game. And that hit at the end. Oh
yeah. Just game over. Nice. Let's go home. We're just closing it out.
Yeah.
Knockout blow. Love that. Yeah. Shout out Jimmy Ward. The catch by CeeDee Lamb, by the way, if it wasn't for George Kittle's circus catch, that one down the left sideline probably would have been the catch of the game. I love CeeDee Lamb. I like the way he plays. Love the ball skills there where he knows the ball's underthrown, can come back, can get interfered with, gets hit while the ball's in the air and still can come down with that catch. It's pretty amazing. But do you remember what we said Friday in the Keys to Victory? We were talking about covering CeeDee Lamb, and we said something like, he might get 10 catches, 100 yards, but it's not going to matter if that's all the offense that the Cowboys can muster. And That's exactly what happened. 10 catches for 117, and he didn't get into the end zone. Dalton Schultz had the touchdown early, missed extra point, blocked extra point that wasn't going to go in anyway. The Cowboys couldn't run the ball, and they couldn't get anything going to anybody else. The next most yardage receiving was 27 yards for Dalton Schultz. He had 5 catches for 27.
Yeah, that's money. That's money. And the 49ers did a really good job of covering him because that's a guy who was kind of coming into this game and he was hot. I actually saw someone post on Twitter. They came up a lot of money on one of these sites. It might have been FanDuel. And it was like first touchdown. It was like 3 of the guys to score the first touchdown of a game. And Schultz was the last one that he needed. So people were like, oh, man, are you going to – because he didn't put up much money. It was like $20, but it was going to cash out at like 80,000. And it was on the last game, and they were trying to pay him out. I think he could have cashed out before the Niner game started at like $15,000, and he let it ride. And Schultz caught the first touchdown of the game, and he gave up like 80,000.
That's amazing. So he called the first touchdown catch of every game.
Yeah, it was like Jamar Chase, Schultz, like Dalton Knox. I don't know, whoever it was in those games, like he got those right. He posted it. I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Pretty amazing. I want to shout out. I don't know if we're going to give opponents game balls, but Micah Parsons was the difference maker in this game. He was pretty awesome. Yeah. And that hip toss, as Jan in the chat here, when Parsons one arm suplexed McGlinchey, poor Mike. Key block on the TD though, and that's key because McGlinchey was so pumped up on that drive where they ran down the field and finally scored a touchdown. Christian McCaffrey plunged in the end zone. But McGlinchey was just so fired up, and he was yelling at everybody after every play. It reminded me of the old George Kittle clip where he's like, run it again, right? Which was a playoff clip. And that's the way it felt on that one drive. And that was the drive, the momentum changer. Mike McGlinchey had a bunch of key blocks, including blocked a couple of dudes on that touchdown run for Christian McCaffrey. So even though he's got the big low light moment and everybody in the world is making memes out of him being 6'8", 310 pounds and flying through the air because Micah Parsons tossed him, which is pretty impressive on Micah Parsons' part. I thought McGlinchey did a pretty good job, especially in the run game, even though that offensive line got beat up in the pass game a lot early in the game.
Yeah, it does suck, though, to just see him get destroyed like that. And that was one of the questions, right? I was wondering, I know what McGlinchey's issues are. Yeah. It's that power.
Speed to power.
And we know that Parsons is a speedster, right? I mean, he's a special talent, so he has a lot. But it's like, does he win with power? And he did on that rep. he sent McGlinchey. I felt bad. But McGlinchey overall, he's had a good year. And we're going to notice that one play. But I think overall, he played solid.
A good point here from Caleb in the chat. Brock Purdy about to make his first start on the East Coast. This is a huge moment because throughout the playoff run for the 49ers and Brock Purdy, they've been at home. And there is no atmosphere like championship weekend. NFC and AFC championship games are way crazier, way better atmospheres than even the Super Bowl is. So this is the best atmosphere of the year. Brock Purdy, rookie quarterback, going on the road, his first trip on the East Coast at the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC championship game. That's going to be fun, Croc.
I think the biggest thing is just how does he throw the ball in that weather? And he played it, Iowa State. So, it's not like it's great weather all the time out that way. But, NFL is just kind of a different game, a lot because of the hashes. The hashes are more narrow. They're not as wide. So trying to throw to, far hash throws is just a little different. With the spacing, so you have to be able to drive throws a little bit more. We know Purdy doesn't have this big, powerful arm, so how does it cut through if it's cold out there in Philadelphia? And it looked like on the East Coast. I mean, we saw what it looked like in Buffalo. It kind of snowed the entire game. Is that something that could potentially hinder Purdy in the game, or does Kyle call a game differently, knowing? Remember a couple years ago, or last year, whenever it was, Mac Jones played against the Buffalo Bills, and it was windy. It was like really cold out, and just threw the ball 3 times, and they were able to win the game. I don't expect that, but is it something like that where okay, this isn't a scenario that's set up for my guy to be as successful as it can be. Let me create this alternate kind of offense so that we can just get through.
It's absolutely going to be the biggest test yet for Brock Purdy and the 2022 San Francisco 49ers on the season against the Philadelphia Eagles next weekend. But one thing that's impressed me so much about this team all year, Croc, and we saw it again tonight against the Cowboys, it's that it's such a big margin for error for the 49ers, because even if they can't run the ball well and they're playing against a good defense that's really pressuring them, and they're not able to convert touchdowns and they're only kicking field goals, they still find a way to win these games, and they still find a way to score when they need to. They find a way to bully the team in the second half. They find a way to shut down the opposing offense in the second half and win the football games. And so they can win games where they score 30. They can win games where they score 19 points. And that's what I think is made this team special right now. And we saw it again against the Cowboys. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that again against the Eagles next week. Can't wait for it.
I'm excited, man. I see, everybody kind of excited about that game or worried. I see that as well. NFL is about matchups. And clearly the Giants didn't match up well against the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm excited to see how the 49ers match up with them throughout this week. 49ers will be ready.
Hey, it's up to the Eagles to match up with the 49ers, right? Niners going into this as the underdog. So we'll see. We will see, of course, a ton more on the NFC Championship game. 49ers, Eagles coming up. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Croc and I back tomorrow. Locked On 49ers.